startups in any new industry will fail, but food tech really stands out as a segment where investors have placed some pretty bad bets in recent years. So what have we learned, and where's the smart money going now?
See actually a return to a new normal. We saw too much capital being thrown into the industry, too high expectations, both on entry value and on exit value, and we're actually going back to a more rational kind of community of startup founders and financing options that will be available to them.
And again, in some of those areas, do you think all of those industries, insect ag, vertical farming, cultivated meat, plant-based, animal-free dairy, do you think all of those have the potential to succeed, or are some of those industries kind of structurally unsound?
I mean, I think it's a mixed bag. I think some of them have a longevity. Things like alternative dairy-free products is very much a category. There are consumers that need that. There are companies that can supply it. I think the expectations in terms of how big and over what timeline were ill-stated within the previous several years. And now we're coming back to, like I said, a more rational situation where it can take 15 to 20 years for these companies to develop the technology and get it into market and for there to be a market to develop. But also the expectations of the capital and how much capital they need to do that are also coming in line with what is traditionally done in this industry.
Yeah. How would you characterize the climate right now for agri-food tech investing in the US? We've got a new administration, there's a lot of uncertainty, tariffs, trade, labor, food policy, regulation, you name it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of uncertainty kind of at the public layer and at the government layer, but we as a private capital industry have to provide consistency and clarity to the startups and the corporations that we're working with. And I think what we're seeing is seeing tighter partnerships built that will show that there's a path both to first generation products, to first revenue, to scaling, but it will be through a smaller number of players and a smaller amount of capital, which again, I think is good constraints to have on businesses so that they can show real meaningful output, both in revenue and in technical breakthroughs.
So how has your investment strategy evolved, or has it evolved in recent years?
We actually have not evolved our investment strategy because we've been a very conservative deployer of capital with an understanding of entry and exit values within this industry, and we did not follow the hype cycle of these companies will be decacorns and centacorns. We said, no, that's not traditionally the way that the market had moved, and we understand the multiples at which these companies will trade at, and so we're much more rational in our investing strategy. What I would say, it's actually gotten easier for us to execute our strategy because the expectations in terms of round size and valuation have come back down to where we would have expected them to be for a more normal and rational investment community.
If you look at AgFunder data in 2024 across the agri-food tech space that we cover, investment was down 3.9% year on year, whereas the previous year it was down more than 50%. So suggests things are maybe stabilizing, but what are you seeing?
We don't operate as an investor community on a year by year basis. It's not helpful to do that. You have to look at longer time scales. So we look at 5 and 10 year time cycles because that's what we need to provide returns within. If you look back, we're actually getting back to a flat to prior to the up round that we had. And so if you say that's an aberration, we shouldn't have done that, then you can say actually we're normalizing back to where we should be, and so it's actually a flat situation, even though in the short term, the 1 to 2 year time cycle, it's down significantly.
Okay, so what are you excited about? I don't know, sustainable packaging, more efficient bioprocessing, enabling tech, what's
I mean, there's so much innovation to happen across the whole entire system that now is being unlocked by new technologies like genetic understanding, AI tool set for every single aspect of the food industry, from agriculture, biomanufacturing, all the way through to human health. Supply chain efficiencies, cold chain optimization, sustainable packaging. How do we make packaging that won't be a waste product but will degrade naturally and service the earth as much as it services the companies that want to use it. And finally, I think there's a big push towards how does nutrition and food unlock better human health outcomes that we see as being a real popular trend in the investment community right now, and we think it's good for people, planet, and profit.
There's a lot of talk at this conference about GLP-1 drugs.
So yes, I see a huge opportunity with GLP-1s, not just in the primary care around weight loss and diabetes prevention and ischemic heart disease, but we need to figure out how we can involve the food industry alongside of the drugs and therapeutic community to make impactful change within this. So finding new and natural ingredients that could stimulate similar responses so that can be provided within the foods or in the supplements that we eat, rather than just relying on the drug industry to provide that capability. On top of that, I think there is the need for wraparound care. As you stop eating so many calories, you also stop getting the macro and micronutrients that you need to live a healthy life. And so how do do we deal with things like bone density and muscle strength and mental health. We see a lot more research now in the gut-brain axis. So if we can get the right concentration of nutrition, nutrient-dense foods, we can allow people to live a healthy life while also staving off the critical diseases that are affecting a wide population.
Every pitch deck you see now has got AI in. How easy is it, from an investor perspective, if you don't have that specific technical expertise to assess where AI is providing a meaningful, transformative effect in a company and where it's just kind of AI washing, if you like?
I agree. I think there's a lot of companies today that are putting AI on a slide deck or putting it at the end of a domain name and saying we're an AI company because there is a gold rush towards AI tools and solutions. However, I think it's incredibly critical to understand who actually has the capabilities and talent to deliver the total package and solution that will ultimately influence your business and the market. However, I think it's more of a business case that we have to work out. AI is a tool at the end of the day. It's like a word processor that you would use in your company. No one's going to walk into a room and go, I use AI every day, or I need to go to my AI tool. They're just going to use it. It's going to be part of every aspect. And so the way that it's sold and the solutions that it provides needs to come in line with the technical capabilities that we need for this industry. I think at the end of the day, the technical capabilities in this industry, when you're dealing with AI for the physical world, are a lot different than when you're dealing with AI for a digital world. And we need to understand there's more work that needs to be done to get data, to provide resources and capabilities that will ultimately move the food and agricultural sector in a positive manner.
We always ask investors about their pet peeves from companies that ignore advice to reduce cash burn and then ask investors to bail them out, unrealistic expectations about valuations, the rampant misuse of AI in pitches. What are your pet peeves?
My pet peeves are around people that are somewhat naive to the fact that they need support and help kind of scaling and building their businesses in this industry. Yes, we create a environment where the founder is put on a pedestal and said, be completely innovative and creative and buck the trends and things like that. But in the food and agricultural industry, you get farther by working with others. You can get there faster working alone, but you get farther working with partners. And so figuring out how they work together with the major players that control the majority of the economic value within the food and agricultural world will help founders become more capable and prolific within this industry versus trying to be a complete disruptor and running into a lot of the issues that expertise and capabilities have shown you can get around with the right knowledge and connection. The final thing I will say is I think you're right. The founders have expected capital to be free and available at all times, and now operating in a capital constrained environment, those founders that had received so much funding in the past don't understand how to operate a business that doesn't run on venture capital. And in fact, most businesses in the world don't run on venture capital. So we're looking for entrepreneurs that understand venture capital is a tool, you use it at the right time and place and in the right amount, and then you lever on capabilities, resources, and other services to help you get to where you need to go. Whether that's grants and loans, whether that's equipment and project-based financing, whether that's revenue, which ultimately at the end of the day, every business that we evaluate, we want them generating significant revenue by the time that we're ready to exit the business, so they've shown that there's a real value to the product that they've built.